You're listening to the Gabe Molina podcast. Halloween special. Ooey, kukui.
My name is Cassie, and I have two paranormal stories. The first one, I was in high school, and I was living with my dad in a split-level townhome. And usually I slept in the basement. It was on ground level, but I called it the basement because it was the lower level. And I was kicked out of my bedroom for a while as the area flooded, and I wasn't able to sleep downstairs. So I was sleeping upstairs, and I was sleeping on the couch. And I remember it was right around the time that DVDs just came out and became popular and affordable because we had just gotten them, and I was watching Lake Placid. So I was going to bed, and I had turned the sleep timer on. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and just feeling very uncomfortable. And I, when I opened my eyes adjusted, and I noticed that, or I knew that the blinds were open, and it was a very bright night. The moon was very bright. And when I looked over, I saw a silhouette of a person sitting on the chair that was next to the TV. So all the lights were off, the moon was shining in, and I didn't see all of him. I just saw half of a person sitting on the chair. And of course I was freaked out. I don't think that I knew him. I know a lot of people say that when they, if it's somebody that they knew that's visiting, they feel very calm and they're not scared, and that wasn't the case at all. I was extremely scared, but kind of frozen. So I threw the blankets up over my head. And I was like, no way. I'm just waiting for something to happen, for it to come over and touch me or, hurt me or something to happen. I'm just incredibly scared, heart beating fast, and nothing happened. So I go to peek again, and he's still there, just watching me, not moving, but just clearly see half of man sitting there again. Threw the covers over my head again, and I'm trying to figure out a plan. And nothing's happening, but I'm just extremely scared. So I kind of did a countdown in my head and made a plan to book it to the bathroom. And the bathroom had two entrances. So one was to the living room that I was going to go to, and the other one was my parents' bedroom. So I booked it into the bathroom, turned the lights on, turned the water on, anything to distract myself from it. And there was a point where I thought that I was going to wake up my parents, and then I realistically went through that scenario and knew that wasn't going to play out very well. So I ended up sleeping in the bathtub that night because I refused to go back out. The second one was very short-lived. I was on vacation with my friend, and her parents were getting married. So we were in a hotel, and it was me and my friend in one bed, and it was her brother and his wife or fiance at the time in the other bed. And we had already been there for a night, so it was it had that lived-in look. We had our luggage and our things everywhere, and he had a pile of his clothes on the floor below the foot of his bed. So, again, I wake up in the middle of the night, which is not unusual for me, but I just, again, get a really odd feeling and really unsettling feeling. So I'm looking around, and I notice that there is a figure wearing her brother's clothes sitting on we moved the coffee table, the end table, away, and he's sitting on the table, and the clothes that were on the floor, it looked like somebody was wearing him, but there was nobody in them. So I couldn't see a face, arms, hands, anything like that. But something was clearly wearing the clothes and rocking back and forth. Not intentionally creepy, just I don't really know how to describe it, but it was moving, it was rocking. And staring at it for a second, trying to think realistically, like, I'm coming out of a dream, this isn't happening. Still staring at it, it's not changing. So then I freak out and I turn around and I shake my friend and said, hey, wake up. And as soon as she woke up, the clothes just dropped to the floor. So, of course, I'm trying to explain what's happening, and everybody in the room is not amused. And then I end up just very uncomfortably half in sleep, half out sleep, not really sleeping the rest of the time. But other than that, those are the only two that I experienced. Very similar, but not really scary, just odd, and they've stuck with me, and I haven't really experienced anything since.
Hi, this is Ellen, and this is my scary Halloween story. I was once doing a ghost hunt at the Yorktown Memorial Hospital on an overnight ghost hunt, and we were using an app that showed the words that hopefully would come through spirits. And my buddy Rob and I were down in the basement with a group of maybe about 10 people and the ghost hunters who were using some pendants and rods to communicate with spirits. And it seemed that the app on Rob's phone was more clear than most of the other systems that we were using. So we were asking some questions, and some random people were asking questions about different things. And again, this app that Rob was using was very on point. And when a certain gentleman asked, "Am I happy?" People were using certain rods and pendants, and they were getting yeses and nos. And it's a weird question to ask, but then he said, "Is Toby happy?" And as soon as he said the word Toby on the app, again, this was already verified that it was pretty accurate throughout different things throughout our walk. But as soon as he said Toby on top of Rob's app, it said son, S-O-N. And the pendants and the rod said yes, Toby is happy. And I peeked up from the back and said, "Sir, who is Toby?" And he said, "Well, that's my dead son." And so that is my creepy story, because it showed that app worked and that it was very creepy, and it sent chills down all of our spines. That's all I got. Thank you.
I'm Gabe, and this is my spooky Halloween story. So it was about 12 years ago now. It's fixing to be our wedding anniversary, and which is scary in itself. But Nina and I had gone to Guadalupe County, the courthouse, to go fill out paperwork for our wedding. And so we got there kind of late in the day. And there's a lot of talk and speculation about hauntings at that courthouse and on the grounds. I guess they used to have a hanging tree and some other stuff going on over there. But anyway, we went in there, and it was Friday towards the end of the day. The building was pretty empty. So we go in and we fill out paperwork, and they tell us to wait outside in the hallway. And it's a cool older courthouse. That's, I don't know, I'd guess it's probably 100 years old or something. And so we're hanging out outside waiting to process the paperwork, and I'm being stupid because I'm getting married and I'm nervous. So I'm walking around, and we had talked the whole drive over there about ghosts and, what were we going to see and this, that, and the other. And so I'm walking up and down the hallways, and I look to my right, and this lady walks by, and she was wearing a very long, flowing, I guess, dress on the bottom, and then a white blouse with kind of like the ruffles. What is the Seinfeld pirate blouse? And a stack of papers in her hand. She had her hair up, and when she walked by, I kind of just saw her back of her head, back of her back, the lower half. But I saw her reflection in the black marble on the wall. And so, being stupid, I just turned around. I told Nina, I said, "Hey, I just saw a ghost." And she's like, "Shut up." I said, I literally just saw a ghost. And so I laughed it off. She was just kind of like, "You're stupid." So I started walking over in the direction of where I had seen the lady cross the hallway. And when I looked down the intersection where she had walked through, and I looked in the direction that she had walked, there was a chain across the hallway, and the doors were all locked, and there was an exit and no other doors, but the door was locked, and like I said, there was a chain across the hallway because it wasn't for people to pass through. And when I saw that, I realized that I had seen a ghost, and turned to Nina, and my eyes got real big, and I told her, I said, "Holy crap, that literally was a ghost." And so then immediately, because I was scared, I started making jokes about it and said, "Poor lady's still working for eternity." But yeah, that was one of those times that I wasn't expecting to see something that I ended up seeing, and it was actually pretty scary.
Okay, so a haunted episode that happened to me while I was on active duty on Fort Sam. I was with the Fort Sam Army Band. They were on Fort Sam Houston. Yeah, I'd say about maybe May 2010, right around there. And when you're in the Army, sometimes you have to do these kind of additional duties. And for us, we have to go and check on the building at least 4 times a day just to make sure everything's still, secure. There's a lot of expensive equipment in there where the band is. And turns out that the band is headquartered in it was building 615 back in the day. And even in 2010, it had already been 100 years old or more. So it had been around for a while. It'd been like a mess hall. It had been a clinic. So it had a lot of different roles in the past 100 years. But while we were there, it was the band hall. And, we had a lot of expensive equipment in there. So we had to take turns checking the building. And so whenever you had the opportunity to check the building or the duty to check the building, you had to check it at least 2 times in the evening. And I heard it was an old building, and some of my other soldiers that were there said they would hear things at night when they would check the building and freak them out. I said, okay, well, my kids and I had been watching paranormal reality shows, and they're like, well, is this really true? Really true? I said, well, let's go find out. If everything's going to be haunted, this 100-year-old building on this military base might tell us something. And so I brought the kids with me on the final check. It must have been like 11 p.m. That night. So it was nice and dark, and we were kind of making a big thing out of it, trying to be a little melodramatic about it. And so there's 2 main levels to this building, upstairs and downstairs. Downstairs used to be operating rooms, and now they were like these little rehearsal rooms that we had. And upstairs was the main rehearsal hall, a big open part of the building where we could put our bigger groups in there to practice. And so I took the kids up to check that part of the building. And then we went downstairs where I thought we could get the spooky ambiance and just kind of mess around. And so we checked the upstairs part of the building, and I left the door open because I knew I would be back so I could secure it later. The door is it's an old building, so the door is a little off keel a little bit. So you actually have to lift it up so it'll catch the lock. So you can't just close it and it'll lock you out. You have to actually lift up the door and have it settle into the lock that way because it's an old building. And so we go downstairs and we do like we saw on those paranormal investigator reality shows. Right? We bought this tape recorder, and we would record and we would ask questions, to the dark, right? Not really expecting to get anything back. And we were asking a few different questions. Who is this? Are you there? Is there somebody here with us? That kind of thing. The kids were getting a good scare out of it, and it's what I wanted. We were just going to have a fun night out, kind of scaring each other. And then we go back up so that I can lock up and uh, and the door is shut. Now we were downstairs. We didn't hear the door slam or nothing. Nobody else is in the building because you had to sign in every time you went into the building. And if anybody had come into the building, they probably would have come down there to check all the noise that we were making. So nobody else was in the building. And so that was the first thing that kind of tipped us off that something wasn't quite right is how the heck did this door get shut? It wouldn't shut by accident, right? Because remember, you have to lift the door up in its hinges so it'll catch the lock. So that kind of freaked us out. I said, okay, it's time to go. So we got out of there. And then later the next evening, I think we were listening to the recordings. And of course, when you're talking and you're waiting to hear something back, you don't hear anything back. And what I saw them do on those paranormal reality shows is they would take the audio recording and then they would just really like expand the volume and really raise the volume up on the recording so you could hear like maybe something you hadn't heard before. And so that's what we did. We had this little, I think it was called audio file, and some sort of program so we could really like enhance the volume of our recording. And we were listening to it. And after I had asked one of the questions, you hear this creepy laugh. And we didn't hear it in the original recording because we hadn't had the volume all the way up. But you could definitely tell when we brought that stuff in and expanded the volume meter that it was a laugh. And it just raised the hairs on the back of my neck. And the kids heard it too. We all got creeped out. We had a nice little story to tell about the time we encountered paranormal activity at old building 615. I think News 4 ran a story on it, and they actually had a recording of the laugh. I'll have to look up one of my old laptops, see if I still have that recording so I can send it to you. But yeah, that was pretty creepy for us. First, the door shutting on its own, which is not possible unless something shut it for us. And then going back and listening to the audio recordings and finding that laugh in the middle of it. It's just really creepy and a really good story that we tell each other sometimes. There was another time when we went down there, we had some cousins visiting and we told them, yeah, we had this haunted experience at Fort Sam. And they're like, well, I want to go. And so it just so happened to be my week to be checking the building again. So I took the whole crew. There was like 8 kids piled into the van. And we went down to Fort Sam and we were in the basement again. And we were just kind of goofing around, and we were in front of one of what used to be the surgery rooms, and the rooms were now closed at night with chain and padlock, so you can just go in there and take what you wanted. So, and then part of our job was to check to make sure all those chains and padlocks are secure. And while we're looking at this door, I think we're asking questions just like we did before. I kid you not, the padlock and the chain lifts up off of the door about an inch or two, and everybody starts screaming. we booked it. We had enough of that, and we took off. I think we might have gotten some kind of video recording. Mario, my son, was on the video. He was recording with his camera. But as soon as he noticed something creepy, he turns around and he runs. So you just see the camera shift levels and just starts running down the hallway. I don't know if you actually captured where the lock kind of lifted up, but it was crazy. And I'm a rational guy. I thought at least for that there might have been an explanation because each one of those rooms has an AC fan to one fan to kind of keep the whole room cool while somebody's in there. I think maybe perhaps because these doors were kind of on swivels, spring swivels, they didn't really have a closing point. That maybe the air had come on and it kind of pressurized the room a little bit, causing the doors to push outward and maybe the lock to do the same. So maybe there's a rational explanation for that, but it was still creepy for us. And I don't have an explanation for the laugh that we caught on audio and for the door shutting on its own while we were downstairs. So yeah, pretty creepy stuff in an old building. Pretty timely for Halloween, but it gets me because I'm pretty rational. I think there's a plausible explanation for everything, but yeah, at least the door and the laugh, I've never been able to come up with a good explanation for. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hey everybody, my name's Joe, and this is my spooky Halloween story. Back when I was a teenager, during the summertime, me and my buddy were hanging out at the house, which wasn't uncommon for us. My parents usually worked from 8 to 5, so we spent most of the time at the house alone. Well, we were in the living room watching TV when, out of nowhere, we started hearing this tapping sound on the roof of the house. Kind of struck us as odd, but we ignored it for a little bit, but it persisted. Finally, we started paying closer attention and really listening, and we noticed that it was rocks being thrown at the roof. We didn't think too much of it because there was neighborhood kids, and sometimes they like to cause mischief. So we just went back to watching TV. Well, it continued for about 5 minutes or so, and we thought to ourselves and started talking amongst each other and realized, like, man, they got to have a lot of rocks for that. So kind of fed up with it interrupting TV and stuff like that, we decided to go check it out. Looked throughout the windows, didn't see anything. Kind of heard some laughing here and there. So we decided to go outside and just kind of, scare them a little bit, make them stop. I went outside first, didn't see anything. Looked around the house, called my buddy outside. He didn't close the door. He kind of left it cracked because we were outside and we didn't have the key. And after about a couple of minutes of looking around, down the street, things like that, we didn't realize that there was no one outside. Well, we went back to the door, and I tried turning the doorknob because it was closed, the door itself, and I couldn't open the door. Got kind of frustrated with my buddy. I was like, dude, you locked the door? What's going on? He's like, no, I didn't lock it. I didn't even close it. Kind of went back and forth a little bit, and I showed him, it seems to be locked. I can't open it. Well, thankfully, having stayed home a couple of times, I had left the back window to our house open and unlocked because we were letting the air in. So we climbed in through the window, went to the front to check it out, heard laughing again from a little kid. Kind of spooked us out a little bit, but whatever. By the time I got to the front door, I realized and looked at my buddy and said, hey, the deadbolt's locked, but the bottom lock is unlocked. Thinking back to it, told them there's no way you could have went outside and actually locked the deadbolt because we didn't have a key to the house. Kind of freaked out. We ended up walking around the house, grabbed a knife just in case because that kind of caught us off guard. Heard more laughing. We kept chasing the laughing of the little girl, but couldn't find anything. Well, down the hall, I noticed out of the corner of my eye a shadow passed from one room to the other. Went down there, looked, it had walked into my room. I went in my room, it was dark, lights were off because we were in the living room, and I heard the laughing again. I finally went to the window, looked outside, and a shadow walked from right to left. So me and my buddy ran outside real quick, realized there was no one there. And after that, we immediately got our things, locked the door, went to his house because we were not going to stay another second there. And ever since then, every now and then you hear a little laughing at my parents' house. Can never figure out what it was or who's causing it. But there's no more kids in the neighborhood, so we figure it's got to be something paranormal.
Hello, I'm Chris, and I'm going to tell my scary Halloween story. I was in my early 20s, and I thought it was a great idea to move out of my parents' house. And we were renting this little house that we found in the neighborhood, and we were just moving in. It was the first day there and unpacking stuff. And I had two friends helping me, but we had plans to go out that evening. So I went in to take a shower, and we had people in the living room, and there's two doors to go into the restroom. So I was in my bedroom getting dressed, and then I heard the water on in the restroom. So I just figured, well, someone else went in to take a shower or, whatever. And so I come out and the water's still like full blast. But no one was in there. I was like, who's taking a shower? What are y'all doing? Like, no, it wasn't me. We thought it was you. Cause like I said, there was two doors. So they really didn't know that I had come out already. And, so it wasn't just like a drip. I mean, it was full blown. Like we had to twist the knobs round and round to turn off. which we thought that was weird. And that was the first day there. And then later on, a few nights in, again in the restroom, taking a shower. Most people, close their eyes when they're washing their hair. And so I close my eyes, washing my hair, open my eyes, and the lights are off. And I distinctively remember that my socks were on the floor. And I closed my eyes again. I said a little prayer in my head, like, what's going on? And I looked over the curtain, and the socks were in the sink. So I probably lived at that house probably about 2 years, and it was a constant something would happen. Knocking on the door, no one was there. Just these random things unplugged. It was just so weird. So we ended up just naming our ghost Gregory. And it just became a joke later on. We just had to live with it. It was just so weird. It's constant little things that would happen. And a lot of them was like in the restroom, lights going off and on, water. So we just dealt with him. We just lived with him, and I guess got used to it. So that's my bizarre Halloween story, but it's true.
Hey, hello, my name is Luis Ponce, and this is my scary story. It was about 2006, and I was married to my ex-wife at the time, and I told you this is probably, people who know my ex-wife probably knows it's gonna be a scary story. But at the time, we had just started to rent a home in Beeville, Texas, on a street called Quarter Horse Drive. You can look it up, and you can try to find the house if you want to. But we were there, and we had just we decided, to move from a townhouse we were living in to a home, because we're going to try to buy a house. And I really, truly, to be honest with you, I think whatever happened in that house was more or less surrounded around my ex-wife, because I just think my ex-wife's full of bad juju. And so, like I said, the first night we moved in, first day we were moving in, we had unpacked some stuff that we brought from the townhouse over to the new house we were living in, moving to. And it was already we had made several trips that day, and this was kind of the last trip. So this is I brought a box of stuff in from the car and put it inside the kitchen area, and I walked back out towards the car. When I came back in with the final box, I walked into the kitchen and I noticed that the loaf of bread had been taken out of one of the boxes, and it was open, and there was bread on the counter. Which is okay. So I looked and I thought, okay, maybe my ex wanted to make a sandwich or something, and so I asked her, I go, hey, did you make were you gonna make a sandwich? And she goes, I didn't get anything. I said, well, there's bread all over the counter. She goes, I didn't do that. She goes, I've been in the back room folding stuff up in the back bedroom. I said, well, what the hell? So I was like, okay. Well, then the way it was kind of spit out, I said, okay, maybe it fell out of the box and maybe it just opened and rolled and open and bread just fell out. I was trying to, rationalize it or whatever. So no big deal. So I put it all back in the bag, and I put it back in the box. And so we, finished the night out and, moved some stuff around, whatever, and went to bed. Well, early the next morning, I wanted to kind of get an early start on getting some of the other stuff. So I got up and I got dressed, and I started walking towards the living room, and I sat down on the sofa, and I was kind of just, taking just kind of getting ready to get started. And the house was real quiet, and I was just sitting there on the sofa, kind of getting my thoughts and just thinking about what I'm going to do today or how I'm going to plan it out. And the house has ceramic tile that's on the floor. And I was sitting there, and we had all the boxes kind of put in like a main area. It was a main area. When you walk in the house, it's a pretty big walk-in area. So we had all the boxes stashed, all in the one area. So I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I heard like kind of like when something slides across the floor, you have that sound, And I heard that, and I kind of woke me up, and I sat up in the bed, and I looked towards where all the boxes were, and I didn't see anything move. But whenever I looked, I saw one of the boxes that the the lids on top of the box, they were kind of just going up and down slowly, like the box had just got moved. So I sat there and I was like, "What the fuck?" So I was like, "Okay." So I was just kind of thinking about that, and I went over there and moved stuff around, and I didn't see what could have caused that or nothing. So I was like, "What the hell was that?" So anyway, so that went on. That was the first two things that happened in that house. And then, like I said, a couple of days later, we're moving and stuff, and I'm in the living room. But after work and stuff, we're sorting stuff out and doing what we can when we get a chance. And I was in the living area and I was unboxing some things, and from the living room area, you can look straight down the main hallway of the house. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, on my hand to God, I saw something walk like a shadowy figure. It looked like it just darted from one room to the next in the hallway. And I said, "What the hell?" So I got up and I walked through the hallway, and I went over there and I talked, and I saw my ex-wife was in the back room folding towels or folding something. And I told her, I said, "Did you just walk from that room to this room?" And she goes, "No, I've been sitting here this whole time." And I said, "Man, I just saw something walk from from the computer area to the back bedroom, And so I checked the whole house and nothing I could find. I was like, "What the hell was that, man?" And I know I saw it. I know I wasn't seeing things. So that was strange. I said, "God dang it!" I said, "Man." I started talking to my wife. I was like, "Man, is this house haunted?" And she's like, "I don't know." She goes, "I haven't heard anything." And I said, "I've been seeing things since we got here the last couple of days. Things have been happening." We're talking, and she goes, "I don't know." So then I asked. Over time we'd be in the house and we could just hear noises in the house, man. We could hear, it sounded like people walking, or you could hear like somebody, opening a door or whatever. And I'd go check it out and nothing would happen. And then, we had been there, like a month had been going on, and maybe not even a month, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe about a month, I guess a month. And, we were actually laying down in bed one day and we're getting ready to go to bed, and my wife is sitting in the bed. She's reading a book or something, and my ex-wife, and sitting in bed reading the book. And I'm laying in bed, and all of a sudden, we just heard this loud banging on one of the walls in the house. We just like, bam, 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 bam. So I sat up on the roof bed, and I said, "What the fuck was that?" And she goes, "I don't know." My wife, she heard that at that time. She goes, "I don't know." So I got up. And it didn't sound like it wasn't like on a wall. It wasn't on the wall from the outside of the house. It sounded like it was inside the house, like on one of the inner walls. So I looked around and I checked all the closets, went up all over the house, and nothing, man. I was like, "What in the world was that, man?" Because we knew we heard that. It's like, and so the following couple of days later, I ran into the landlord. She was actually the lady I was paying at the time, because I was actually renting the house from another woman, Tula. And I was so the lady who was collecting the money for her was a friend of mine from work, but she'd been in the house before. Her friend lived there at one time, and I talked to her, and her name was Lydia Mata. I don't know if she hears this. Shout out to Lydia. How you doing, Miss Mata? I asked her. I said, "Hey, Mata, is there something going on in this house?" I go, "Is this house haunted?" And she kind of had that look on her face, and she was like, "Why?" And I said, "Well, because we've been hearing some strange things, and the other day we heard this loud banging on one of the walls." And right away she goes, "Was it in the back bedroom area?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, Ponce, she goes, I was telling Molly years ago that house is haunted because I'd been in that house before and I'd heard that exact same thing, you know? And I said, "Yeah, man, I just heard it. We just heard it the other night." She said, "Yeah." She goes, "I don't know if it's haunted." She goes, "But I know some strange stuff's happening in that house." So, so of course, we just, whatever, we just kind of try to accept the fact that I guess there was a ghost in our house or something in our house. So that whole time that we were together, things were happening, man. Like I said, noises, I'd see shadow things walked through the hallway. It didn't nothing. It didn't seem like malicious or nothing. Just kind of fucking with us. And but the craziest thing that happened to me is one evening. Um, I was home. My ex had gone out of town to go visit her folks or go visit some of her family, and I was sitting in the computer area, and the whole time I was in there, I could hear a lot. I was just surfing the web, doing whatever, and I was the whole time I was in there, I could just hear like more than normal, like more than usual, like just banging, and it seemed like things are opening and closing, and I could hear it. And I could just be like, I was like, I don't hear you, I just kind of, I don't hear you, and just kind of ignoring it, and so, but then about an hour went by, and I didn't hear any more noises, and I kind of forgot all about the noises, I was, like I said, I was surfing the web. 45 minutes went by, an hour went by, and so I decided to get up to go to the kitchen and get something to drink. And when I walked in the kitchen, and I swear this is straight out of a movie, man. I still don't believe it. Now, even when I'm telling the story right now, it's still hard for me to believe. So I walked in the kitchen area, and almost every cabinet, that upper cabinet, and some of the drawers were like halfway open. Like, and and this is 2006, so I wasn't like, I had the cell phone out ready to go. I was like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, I couldn't believe it. Everything was open in the kitchen, and I was like, what? And I just kind of like, I got up, and I put my shoes on, and I left for a little while, man. I was like, man, that was crazy, the way that everything was just set up, And, so after that, my wife left me. And then I ended up staying in that house for 4 years, and nothing ever happened again. So I'm about 100% sure whatever was haunting my house was attached to my ex-wife. And thank God she left. And that's my scary story.
This is Nina, and this is my spooky story. One night, we had, Gabe and I, had been out of town, or we had just left for the day. And actually, I think we had just left for the day. Just got home really, really late. Probably went to George West for a hot minute and then got back late. But we were coming home, like I said, pretty late at night, probably around 11-ish or so. And we had stuff in the car or in the truck and coming in. And at the time, we just had Beaumont. And Beaumont's kennel was located in our room because on weekends that we would have parties, we would move his kennel into our room. And I just hadn't moved it back yet. So like right when you walk in the room, we had his kennel settled right to the left. But so we had come home, let Beaumont outside. I had let Beaumont outside to go to the restroom. And we were still kind of bringing stuff in and out. And finally, I went to the door, let Beaumont back in. I told him to go to his kennel. And at that time, he was trained. He would go straight to the kennel when I would say. And so he did. He started trotting over to the bedroom, and he made a left. And he was kind of trotting, so I was just walking. So I was a couple steps behind him. But as he was going to the kennel and I was following him, I heard like a kind of a playful rah, and when I got to the hallway part, I was able to see Beaumont, him reacting to that noise, and he had just turned into his kennel, and he just started backing out of his kennel really, really fast, and just ran back into the living room with me, and naturally I blamed Gabe, and I was like, Gabriel, why did you do that? And Gabe's like, what? And the what came from the other side of the house. So I was like, what is going on? Beaumont's now bleeding. He had pulled kind of the quick off of his nail, just backing up so quickly. And so it just kind of occurred to me, like, that noise I heard, that wasn't Gabe. Like, what the hell was that? And just, watching ghost hunters and all those ghost movies and shows so often, I just got pissed off. And I went into the bedroom. Lights are off and everything. And I just started yelling if it was a ghost. I'm like, get out of here. Do not scare my dog. You're not welcome. Like a maniac. But I was pissed off. I wasn't scared as much as I was pissed off because my dog had his little paw was just bleeding and there was blood on my carpet because we both definitely heard that rah. And at the time, thinking back on it, like, that's kind of spooky. But it wasn't anything negative or vicious. What I sense it as was just like somebody playing a trick, right? So, like, when a little kid walks in the room, you go rah, and it's not so much to scare them as it is to get the reaction of the scared from them. So it wasn't like a negative thing. It was almost childlike. But that was pretty spooky.
Hello, my name is Jane Doe, and this is my scary story. So when I was 14, I'm approaching 40 now, I lived with my grandma in this itty bitty town in northeastern Oklahoma for a few months. And her house was like the place to be. It was the big house on the hill, but the hill was in the middle of nowhere. So there was like never anything to do. The closest store was like a Dollar General 30 minutes away. Anyway, one night I had two of my girlfriends spending the night, and I was looking in the linen closet for some extra blankets, and I came across a Ouija board. And it's interesting because I'm not into like paranormal activity. That's not my thing. But I called to my girlfriends and I was like, hey, check this out. I found a freaking Ouija board. And one girl's like, oh, hell no. The other was like, hell yes. And I was super indifferent, but I said, fuck it. And I took the box to my room, and we sat on the bed and opened it up, and there was like no direction booklet or anything. So we were like, all right, F it. Let's just ask some random questions and see what happens. And we laid our fingers on, we laid the board on my bed and put our hands on the little doohickey thing. And we took turns asking questions. And we ended up connecting with a spirit named AZ, as in the letter A, the letter Z. And I'm still like, to this day, I'm like, I asked him, is that your initials? Okay, I could go on about that. But anyway, it's not initials. So the name is AZ as far as I know. Anyway, we learned all kinds of things about him. He lost his wife and his son in an airplane crash. He was in hell. He told us how he died. I know this sounds crazy, but he like kind of became our friend. So anyway, we would ask him like weird things. I mean, this became like a ritual. Like every time they came over, we would connect with AZ. And other spirits would try to like interfere, and we, temporarily just humor that thought for a moment and get back to AZ. He was like our homie, kind of, sort of. So anyway, we would always ask him like, make the lights flicker, or can you move something so we know like this is legit and that, she's not moving it or she's not moving it. And we were always accusing each other of moving it, even though like we all swear we didn't, but whatever. But he would always say no, because apparently that like type of paranormal activity was evil. And he, even though he was in hell, he wasn't a bad guy. He just made some bad decisions. And so anyway, okay, so let me get to like the terrifying part. So, my girlfriends and I would always summons him, for lack of better words. And one night my cousin was over, and she didn't know like what I've just said to you, but I was like, I found a Ouija board in grandma's closet, whatever, like, you want to do it? And she was like, no, that's stupid. And I'm like, no, let's just try it, and I totally peer pressured her into it. But anyway, we place our fingers on there, and I'm like, AZ, if you're out there or whatever, please join us, or please move the whatever to yes. And nothing. And she's like, this is so stupid, whatever. And I say it again, And again, I'm like, these fucking bitches, right? These girls, they totally been like tripping me out. Like they've been making a fool out of me. I'm an idiot, whatever. But I swear, I start to feel like a shake. And she's like, stop shaking it. And I'm like, I'm not. He's coming. And she's like, oh my God, I'm scared. And I'm like, no, don't let go, because apparently you're not supposed to like ever touch it by yourself. Anyway, I convince her to like chill out. I'm like, he's good, and I'll explain later. And she's like, what the hell? You like talk to him? What do you mean? And anyway, I ask him, AZ, is that you? Where are you? And I mean, it took a while, but the thing started moving, and it went to M, and then it went to A, and then R, and this is like super slow, and you're like trying to decode what's happening, and it's just like, it's a trip. That's how all the correspondence was. So it was like, not a lot of things got accomplished in a very long amount of time. But anyway, he ends up spelling out March. And after I realize it's March, I'm like, I'm looking for AZ. Can you please, let AZ come through or whatever? And then it goes to yes. And I say again, where are you? It spells out March again. I don't know what the hell March means. My cousin's like, this is stupid. I don't want to play. You're moving this. Anyway, right when I'm like, okay, thanks, whatever, and about to just be done, because I'm looking around every corner of my room, like up, down, left, right, everywhere, trying to figure out, like, what the hell could he be talking about? And I had just moved there, so I had all these cards from people, and I hung them up on my wall, all dumb of me, but whatever. So I'm, like, looking at all my cards, like, does something say March? Anyway, last thing I look at, I swear, is this tiny little desk calendar that, like, flips, with, like, a little quote or something in there. And I'm talking maybe 3 inches by 3 inches, little, sitting on my dresser, my chest of drawers, so like my taller dresser thing. So like I knew it was there, but like you couldn't see it from where we were at. Anyway, I realize, and I kind of like sit up and high enough to see, and the fucking thing says March. And I about lose my shit. I run out of that room so damn fast. My cousin's like not even knowing what's happening. I got rug burns on my knees because I fell down, and that's ha ha ha. But for real, that shit was real, and he actually is still kind of my friend. And here and there, I'll say like, "What's up, AZ?" and give a shout out. But yeah, don't fuck around with Ouija boards, y'all.
Hi, so my name is Vera, and here's my scary story. So my grandmother is from Mexico. So when she was actually dating my grandfather, he had to cross her over the border through the Rio Grande to go into El Paso. He would always go through an area where there were some old homes, and some of these homes didn't even have any doors. And that's just you kind of would walk by every single time. And he would go, and he would never see anyone there. Not sure how long after he was been doing this with my grandmother, but one night he was taking my grandmother back home, and when he was returning, he passed by the house like he did every other time. And that evening, something made him look back. So when he looked back, there was a skeleton sitting in a rocking chair, and it was rocking back and forth and motioning him no. Like it was warning him, I don't know, but just like kind of telling him no. So my grandfather got so scared, he ran all the way home, which was a little bit over 2 miles, is what my aunt was telling me. But as he got home, he was so scared, and he never went that route again. And after that, so he proposed to my grandmother. They got married, and he never had to go back. But he, to this day, the story goes that he never wanted to even go by that area because he found that as a curse, like something was warning him not to go there. So that's my scary story, and that's something that's shared among all the family.
Hi, this is Louis Guzman, and this is my haunting moments through my life. So I grew up in Commerce, Texas as a teenager, and through the years, my mom and my aunts would always get together on Friday evenings, Sunday evenings, Saturday evenings. We would have dinner with the neighbors, and they'd always talk about variety of things that have happened in their lives. My mom had witnessed the devil over off of West Commerce Street, or over at Highway 90, at the bar where the devil had appeared with chicken feet or rooster feet and vanished into thin air in the night. They talked about the donkey lady, so there was a lot of that kind of spooky talk that my family would always engage in. But my mom was a very religious person and always practiced and preached. The word of God is always the strongest name in the world, is the name of Jesus. And so growing up, you're always caught with both sides of the house, whether it was scary or whether it was, a religious aspect. And so going into 7th grade, it was, I just remember it clearly. It was like a Sunday night, went to bed. We lived in 7 kids in a 3-bedroom home, so some of us had to double up. There was always a light on in the hallway for everybody to to kind of make their way to the bathroom if they needed to in the middle of the night. And so I remember waking up late or early morning Monday morning, and just happened to see the strip of light from the hallway. So I was like, all right, and then I started hearing some noises and movement and didn't know what that was, but I'm laying there, and that strip of light that came across, it was a very narrow beam of light that went across the whole, across the way from my bed. And I started seeing a shadow that went by, and I was like, oh, well, somebody's up. So I felt not so as scared as thinking I was the only one awake in the whole house. And so the shadow went back and forth a few times, and I just thought it was interesting that I couldn't hear nobody walking, but I could see the shadow. And as it came through, little by little, I just started feeling like I couldn't move in my bed. And I got tunnel vision and lost all vision other than as it went down to a pinhole. And then before me was, in my mind, and what I truly believe was the devil. He was outlined in a red neon face, and these hands that were coming for me. I remember not being able to breathe. I couldn't move, and I was just trying to scream out. I had 3 other brothers in the bedroom, in their beds, and I was the only one faced with the demon that was coming for me that night. And it was unsurreal. So I just remember trying to gasp for air, trying to call out, and something clicked, and I just started trying to mutter the word Jesus as I couldn't even move my mouth. And I had all this energy built up that I just could not release from the demon that was in front of me. Finally, I was able to utter the words. Everything came back to, and I just remember laying in bed the rest of the night, afraid to close my eyes. And that took on for several weeks. I just couldn't sleep, thinking it was going to come back. And as I talked to my mom about it, she's telling a 7-year-old kid, you're not living right, or the devil wouldn't come for you. And so those memories from them, it was very chilling. And to this day, I still have moments where whoever was my, as I call them, visitor in the night, still return. So I grew up in Converse, still, went to the high school in junior high there at Kitty Hawk and Judson. And there would be moments where I would see shadows moving in my house. And none of the other family were ever affected. I walked into a bedroom one time, and the dresser drawers all flew open at me. And I just screamed and just ran to the main room where everybody else was at. I never felt comfortable walking into my house alone. I don't know if my house was haunted or I was the one being haunted. So you fast forward to 19 years of age, I leave for the military thinking all this is done. I'm leaving. Whatever was there is going to remain in the house, and it will never follow me. So went to Alaska, had a few years, in the military there. It was in the dorms. And one night, it was the same chilly night. It was, I was in a dorm room, brand new dorms that they had just built. And I'm laying in bed, and I'm woken up at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I see a tuxedo standing right beside my bed. And there's no head, no hands, no feet, but it's dancing, and it's dancing right beside me. And I can't move, and you just feel this sense of just eeriness and this darkness in my dorm room. It was the freakiest thing that I've ever witnessed, prior to seeing the devil. Like, I had thought all that was behind me. And it continues to this day. There's been moments where I see shadows being felt like I'm pulling into the walls. So even as recently as last night I had a dream that one of my coworkers was over, and we were going through the house, and the lights wouldn't turn on. And that's when I know my subconscious knows this is not right. This isn't a dream. This is now your visitor. Your visitor has returned. And so like I feel like there's a game being played, whether it's my mind or the truth. But and honestly, it feels so surreal that I slept last night with the lights still remaining on. He will come, or it will come in different aspects. I've woken up to roars in my bedroom where I feel and I hear something has roared me awake. And the dog is wide awake, alert on the foot of the bed with her ears pinned back. So I know it's just not me. I know there is an essence or something that has been coming for me in through the night. One of the funniest things that has happened with this, as I battle this thing that comes here and there, one night, one of my friends, we went out and had a great time. We went out drinking, came back, and we decided just to crash on the bed. And so we jumped into bed. He laid on his side, I laid on my side, and we were laying there. And, usually when you would think, nothing would be happening with somebody else in the room. And I looked at the foot of the bed, and there he was again. Darkened figure, just standing there, just looking at me. And I don't know if it was because I was kind of a little tipsy from being drunk or not. But I remember looking at him and says, "No more. I'm done with this. I can't take this no more. I'm tired of waking up and being caught off guard and being haunted by this." And so as he leapt at me to kind of come at me, I just remember swiping my hand and pushing him behind me, and he was gone. Went to bed. Everything was great. The next morning I woke up and my buddy went home. 2 days later, he calls me and says, "What did you do to me?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Something happened. Something has happened to where now I'm seeing these little shadows in my house. So something is running from corner to corner of my bedroom, and I can't sleep. I feel this, something is here." And I told him what had happened. He was so mad. He didn't talk to me for like 2 months. He got some white sage, and he saged his house. But it's something that comes and goes. I don't embrace it because I don't feel it's worthy of my of accepting being haunted by this person. And so to this day, I still live haunted by whatever this thing is, and it has its moments where it'll rear its head. I can walk into a house and feel something that's not right. And so to this day, I'm still haunted by whatever it was that captured my attention and has opened me up to whatever that side of the realm is. But luckily I still stand firm in my faith and believe that I can still say in the name of Jesus, and I will still be rescued from whatever is about to happen or going to happen. And I just never want to follow through with whatever the true intentions is of being pinned in the night and where you can't move and you can't breathe. So for those out there, it could just be me, and it's okay to think that. But I know what my haunting is, and I know what I live with for the last 50-something years. And so that's my story. This is Louis Guzman, and happy Halloween.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina podcast.